Hey, we are on. We are on. Mr. Moore, Mr. Richards. Welcome,
Indeed.
welcome to office hours.
Well, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, you haven't participated in office hours
Well,
yet.
this is a first.
This is indeed a first. Well, it's good to have you here. Hey, and what we're gonna do is and what we're gonna do is first off is it's awesome to have you here. The way we're gonna work on this is mostly I'll just be looking at you this way
Hmm.
instead of turning toward you. Um, hey, but it's just really good. A lot of people have a lot of questions to ask. And at some point, Jeff, not right now, but in a little bit, it'd be really nice if you could go online and get a couple photos of Rockview. That would be nice to uh, Irvin's old home
Hmm.
and we'll just show that. Hey, so Irvin, let me. I'm going to start with a question before we take a question. Uh, start taking questions from the stream. But how, how did you get so comfortable speaking in big groups like that? Like, at what point in time did you really note that you had a gift for oratory in that way?
Well, if you recall, Sam, I've told you quite often about the speech impediment I had when I was a youngster,
Mm-hmm.
10, 11 years old, and I studied horribly. I mean, I've seen visuals and I've seen displays of people that studied on television, in the movies, and what have you, but I studied horribly. And the impact of that, or the effect of that, was that people would laugh at me when I tried to say something. And my response or reaction to that was that I fought them.
Mm-hmm.
I was a youngster that didn't know how to control my emotions or my responses. And so what I did was we fought. And I gained a reputation of being a neighborhood bad boy because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But my brother mentioned something to me one day. I just came in the house from fighting someone who laughed at my stuttering. And he says, Irvin, you're fighting again. I said, but he laughed. He laughed at me. And he says, you know what? Strange, but when we sing, because I do come from a family that sings, a singing family, we've had singing groups since I was a kid. He says, when you sing, you never stutter.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never thought about that. And it was just something that hit me. I said, wow, he's right. And I thought about it and thought about it. Oh, I thought about it for, it seemed like forever, but it was maybe a day or two. I says, well, what are the elements of singing that I'm not doing when I'm talking? Because I'm expressing words. So one is that I knew the lyrics of every song that we sang. Another one is that singing involves breath control. So you had to
Mm-hmm.
know when to breathe, when to take a breath, when to modify it, when to hold it, how to use your diaphragm, all of these kinds of things that I didn't know the words for when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I began to practice this. I come from a family, we have a lot of kids in our family. So I had brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. And I was maybe the second oldest boy. So I pretty much had held sway over all the youngsters. So they would do what I told them to do. So I would arrange listening sessions for them where I would go to the library or I'd get a box of cereal or anything that had lettering on it and I would read it to them. I don't care if it was the ingredients of something. And I would read it to them. Now, when I was this age, radio was the king of entertainment for us. It wasn't television yet,
Yeah,
even though there
yeah.
was TV, but radio was the king. And you had some orators on the radio that were par excellence.
Yeah.
They were so great. Tone, intonation, pronunciation, enunciation, style, flair, it was all there. So I listened and I practiced and I imitated to emulate. And slowly but surely, I began to speak in longer and longer sentences or phrases or paragraphs without stuttering. Practice, Sam. You've heard the
Yeah,
old
that's
adage,
awesome.
practice makes
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Oh, that
yeah.
is so
Hey,
true.
listen, I've been doing my thing for 39, almost 40 years. It will
Indeed.
be 39 and 8 months, 39 years and 8 months. Hey, so well, how about being an orator though? Like when did you, so how much, when it
I,
Gritterford or
I was
Rockford
I
were
was
you?
always I always had a bunch of guys around me, people,
Uh-huh.
and I was usually was one of the leaders, not necessarily the leader of the gang or the leader
Uh-huh.
of the mob, but I was one of the guys that because I read a lot and I knew a lot of things, and people had questions. People always have questions. People always tend to turn to the one who produces answers. And Irvin was, I mean, look, I heard all my life, Irvin Moore. Irvin thinks he knows everything. And I didn't really think that, but I just happened to have answers. And so I began talking when we were in groups. I would do a lot of the talking. And it got to the point where when we had something to say as a group, they'd say, let Irvin tell them, or let Irvin say it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you have that voice. I mean, you have a really a low,
Well, it
resonant
wasn't low when I
voice.
was 10 years old,
Yeah, yeah, no,
10,
but I'm
11,
thinking
12 years old.
later in
It
life,
has
maybe
got,
it
it
was,
has gotten to that point
yeah,
because again, some of the orators that I patterned my style after was people like James Earl Jones
yeah,
or James Earl Jones' father,
yeah, yeah,
and they had low, resounding voices.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my
Mm.
God. Hey, okay, listen, our first question is from Eric Sell. And so you stated in class that it'd be best if we abolish prisons. You mentioned abolishing prison. What would you suggest instead for keeping the public safe from the more dangerous, aggressive
Well,
criminals,
remember I said,
or to keep them
oh,
safe
okay.
for the white collar criminals that are stealing billions and billions of dollars?
Remember I said that with a caveat.
Okay.
I said, if we ever rose to the heights of what's possible for humankind,
Mm,
we would
mm-hmm,
not need prisons. And I would like
mm-hmm.
to see prisons abolished. But I said, being a realist at this point, and what I know of people, that's impossible at this point because we will still need places to place people
Mm-hmm.
who are a danger to society, a danger to the communities, a danger to themselves. Prisons are supposed to be places because they're called houses of correction, Department of Corrections. They're supposed to be places where people are placed to undergo a form of correctiveness or
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to operate within society.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things they do not do today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So rather than being an abolitionist wants to see the complete and utter demolishing of prisons, I want us to learn to be able to treat those who need treatment,
Yeah. Yeah.
to educate those who need education,
Uh-huh.
to teach those who need to be taught
Uh-huh.
how human beings should function.
So you yourself have spoken about various people who you've met in prison who you've said, man, I hope I never want to meet that person on the
Mm-hmm.
outside of prison.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just yeah, you just don't ever want to meet them because they don't belong
In the
outside.
state that they were in at that particular
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Yep. All right. So now that's a thing that other people do we forget about. You being in prison for 52 years, you've watched people, including yourself, my friend,
Oh, yes. Oh,
transform.
indeed. Indeed.
And
Indeed. Of course.
yeah, people age out of a lot of that. But
That too. But also, there are instances where a young person that comes in, something could happen in their lives at that particular moment that transforms who they are. Or something could happen, as it did with a lot of brothers and sisters that I taught, where they begin to learn about themselves or learn about what's required of a human being to function in society. Things that they never really understood or knew prior to that point.
Yeah. Okay. So when you, so you know, the day after you were there, the class after that next Tuesday, we had a conversation in a class I called punishment.
Mhm.
And what I was doing was trying to kind of dig away at some of this, right? Um, to say like, hey, what you don't, we could do better. And you know, here in the society, we don't talk about kind of finding ways to re-socialize people so that, or to help them. I mean, move them forward. We don't want people in prison, right? Prisons are really expensive. So so we could agree. What's the average price to have someone in?
So around $45,000 a
$45,000 a
year,
year. Okay, right.
and it's more if you're an invalid, you're geriatric, or you have medical issues. So
Yeah.
much more than that.
So it could be 70 or
It could
$80,000.
it could be 100,000. It could be
Yeah.
$150,000.
Yeah. So if you think about that, let's just start with 40,000, right?
Hmm.
Just starting right there. That's so much money.
Oh boy,
There's so many things that we could do
indeed.
that would, so we would not have to pay that. Now, but again, I want to go back to this idea. So there were prisons at certain points in time. There were people who you've met who said, "I don't ever want to see that person on the outside,"
Hmm.
because they just wouldn't be ready for it.
Again, and I want to keep this caveat there. I
Yeah.
would never want to see that person out if they remain as they were at this particular moment.
And if they don't transform,
Well, that's what I mean by remaining.
yeah, I
If
got
they
you.
don't, if they
Okay.
stay the same way they are now, I don't ever want to see them out.
What about just the side of prison that is just pure punishment, where
It's
you do
not. It's
something?
not supposed to exist.
Uh-huh.
Prison is not supposed to be. It was never meant and intended to be a place of punishment.
Right. Okay, I
It
got
was
it. It's
meant.
the workhouses.
Oh well, that's different.
No, it's but workhouses
No,
and
initially it was supposed to be a place of penance, which is
yeah,
why where we
right.
get the name penitentiary. This people
Penitentiary.
inside were supposed to be penitents
Yeah. Okay.
who resided in where a penitentiary
What does that mean to you?
to seek to seek atonement.
Atonement. Yeah.
People were supposed to be see prisons were penitentiaries were initially developed and thought of by a religious group of people in the United States, Puritans and Quakers, those kind of folk who came upon the idea that the form of incarceration that was used at the time included punishment, included castration, it included branding and scarification and evisceration and hanging and putting in the stocks and being beaten with rocks and that was punishment.
Yeah.
And it's a minute, that's not helping our society. And there were Christian folk who says we're taught and we are exhortated to be kind to our fellow human beings, to love them, to love our neighbors, to even love our enemies. So let's move away from the form of punishment that we've been using for those who break the laws and put them in a position or a place where they can seek atonement for their sins, which means a cell with nothing in the cell but a bed and a kneeler, a Bible, and no contact with human beings of any kind, just a constant communication with God.
So you know what? I stayed at a. Hey, by the way, Jeff, I want to go to JG's comment about people with long prison records, but I stayed at a Benedictine monastery for a couple of weeks, a number of years ago, and I had a cell. It was essentially a cell. I had a straight back wooden chair, a a bed, a small bed, a desk, and a light. And that was it. And I had a bench to use
Sure.
to pray. and that was it for 2
Mhm.
weeks. I mean, I came out. It was 2 weeks of silence. We didn't talk. You know, dinners were really interesting when you wanted someone to pass the mayonnaise or
Mhm.
something. You know, pass the rice. You had to, you know, but really, it was a time of atonement in so many
Indeed.
ways.
Indeed.
Okay, hey Jeff, can you yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So most people in prison. So JG is saying this. Most people in prison have an extensive criminal record and pose a danger to society. What would you say about that? How would you
I
respond
would
to that?
say, first of all, where did he get his statistics from to even know that most people in prison
What would
have
you?
extensive? I say that's not necessarily true.
Hmm. What would you say?
Prisons quite often are transient kinds of places
Hmm.
where people who are arrested and before they're adjudicated or found guilty of anything have to go through a process, and
Hmm.
they're still imprisoned.
But they're in jails at that point. But
Well, see,
go to Rockview though.
I
Just think
know,
about
but I
Rockview.
consider prisons, jails, they're all the same to me.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You know,
Okay. And most people do actually.
oh yeah.
Okay. So we need to remember that.
We need to remember that the majority of people that are incarcerated,
Are nonviolent for
nonviolent,
sure.
and quite often are not guilty of what crime they've been accused of. We know how the criminal justice system works and the police force, what they do, how they target certain people, certain communities.
Okay, or are charged with one crime, but through various plea bargains or just changing all sorts of things, right? They end up being charged with, maybe they're charged with three things. They end up
Well,
pleading
there was
to
a
one.
time when if you committed a crime, you were charged with that crime and not a panoply of adjacent charges that stem from the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Not
Okay.
assault, not a battery, not aggravated assault, not assault with a deadly weapon, and they all stem from the same particular act.
So what would you say, Irvin, then to going back to JG's comment? People, but there is a certain percentage of people who have a long criminal history,
Like me.
like you. Yeah, you had a long
I
history as
did,
a
of course. Yes,
juvenile.
I did. Not
Yeah.
just as a juvenile, but when I was arrested for the case that I went to prison for and received a life sentence, I had somewhere in the neighborhood of a record of 14 or 15 arrests.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that's long. It's not 30, 40, but it's long.
Yeah, that's long.
Some
That's a lot.
people have never been arrested. Some people have one arrest previously,
What were they for though?
a host of things.
Like stealing, joyriding, you had a
Well,
couple things.
joyriding was one of the first as an adult. That was, in fact, that was my very first. It wasn't called joyriding. It was uh, a stolen car,
They stole a car.
theft of an automobile.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you say about then people? So people have this idea. There is a certain percentage of people who have a long history.
Yes.
They get out, they commit more crimes, they go
Mhm.
back, they get out, they commit more crimes, they go
Mhm.
back. And what I hear you saying is, look, have we made an attempt? We want to create a good system. I'm going to try to make this argument here, right?
Mhm.
Without being a bleeding heart liberal, because both of us have encountered human beings who we're afraid of and we don't
Oh,
want to
indeed,
encounter.
indeed, of course.
We don't want to live next to them. We don't want to be around them. We
Mhm.
don't. Okay. So, but we want to create a good society. We have a limited number of resources available to
Mhm.
us. Okay. Um, we also accept that some people, when you give them all the chances in the world, like you had, I mean, you were not a person who didn't have chances. Your family was intact. Your parents worked. You had, that was very, you know,
Indeed.
so, but some people just go down that road.
Ah.
And I saw it in my community, my life with my friends. I didn't. I saw the moments when I
Mhm.
said
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
could go toward the streets, and I
Indeed.
went, nah, I'm not going to do that. And so some people, they don't take the opportunities, right? But many could or would, or maybe we've never really shown people, like we haven't created a system whereby people, we say like, this is too damn expensive to be throwing people into prison. We got to
Yes.
try to get these people to stop the cycle of whatever it is that they're doing. This is your argument.
I am in complete agreement with it. That is my argument. That no one is irredeemable.
Mhm.
We have to at least make the attempts. And what I mean by that is
Mhm.
the system itself has become so reactionary that it's cause and effect.
Mhm.
You break this law, and this is the impact. This is the
Yeah.
effect of it.
Yeah.
We don't look. It's just now that people are starting to become even aware of trauma in a person's life from the
Mhm.
time that they're children.
Mhm. Keep going. Just keep going.
Things that have happened that almost force their feet down a particular path.
Mhm.
Some people call it the playground to prison or school to prison pipeline, those kinds of things. And now we're talking about systemic racism. We're talking about inequities in education, zoning, job opportunities, that whole host of things
Mhm. Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
especially to a young person, that seems to show him that his life is meaningless, is worth nothing, and that
Mhm.
the only way out, if he looks at role models in his community, the only way out is to do something that society considers criminal.
Mhm. Mhm.
There are remedies to all of that. And one of them is one of the most transformative things that occurred to me was education itself.
Mhm.
People learning what's possible, learning beyond the scope and sphere of their very, very limited academic or even vocational universe.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I began to delve into books and learning and what life actually was or could be,
Mhm.
I was amazed. Sam,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
I know.
amazed.
No, you. That's the thing that I had that happened to me when I was 20. The same thing. Just the amazement of like, wow, this is
Wow.
out there.
This is
Like,
this is not as out there. It's been out there.
yeah, right. How did I not know that school, that learning could be this fascinating? Maybe not
Oh,
school, but
why? Of course, I hadn't reached a point where I looked outside of myself to say, why hadn't someone in my community or in the system that was set
yeah.
up around me stepped up and says, "Wait a minute, young man."
But you know what? They probably did.
No, they did not say.
Yeah, they did
No,
for, well,
no. Look. You were
hang
in a
on.
different community.
I was in a different community, but not much. Yeah, I never had a teacher pull me aside and say, "Hey, come on, Sam. You're an interesting guy. You could, there are opportunities for you." I never had any of that.
Well, you are
Yeah,
an anomaly
yeah,
because
yeah.
I've
Well,
talked
you're
to.
an anomaly. Are you an anomaly? Go back to Rockview.
Mm-hmm.
Books, learning,
Indeed.
college courses
Indeed.
come in. How
Hmm.
many people did you watch really transform their consciousness?
Hundreds.
Yeah,
Sam.
yeah,
And I don't inflate these numbers, hundreds.
yeah, yeah,
I watched people that were in prison and had perhaps been in prison any number of times, or this may have been the first time that they were in prison. And I was already on the track that I was on
yeah.
regarding uh, learning, regarding
Hmm.
education, regarding this being a means to grow and develop.
Yeah, yeah.
And I began steering guys toward this that were younger than I, that were still doing the same things I did at their age.
Hmm.
Because I knew, first and foremost, I had now understood my role in this community, and it came with a sense of responsibility. It's what I talk about now when I talk about people that live out here. And they just exist. They don't realize that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
social contract demands that if you live out here amongst men and women, there's certain things that you do, certain things you don't do. You have certain obligations, you
Yeah.
have certain responsibilities, and these are obligations and responsibilities that every human being should be aware of, should
Okay.
know.
Okay. And if we make you aware of them and you consistently break them, then we have to do something with you. Like we have to protect the rest of us
Well,
from
if
you.
we make you aware of them
Yeah.
and you don't respond,
Yeah.
then there's something wrong.
Yeah. Either with you, this person,
No, there's something
or
wrong
woman. Yeah.
if you're made aware that of all the realm of
Yeah.
possibilities
Yeah.
of what you should be doing, the ideal things that you should, as a human being, be
Yeah.
doing to better yourself, to not be a self-destructive mechanism,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
an asset to your family, to your community. If you're shown these things and still don't respond to them in a positive way, then
Mhm.
there's something wrong. When I say something wrong, I don't mean systemically. I mean, there may be something wrong with you
Yeah, I got you. Okay.
psychologically,
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah. Okay. I think the thing that is that I hear what you're saying.
Hmm.
I'm in agreement there. I think the thing that I keep coming back, and this is what conservatives are starting to say, by the way, especially economic conservatives are starting to say, hey, listen, um, this the amount of money that we spend here
Hmm.
on incarceration and the entire this criminal justice system at so many levels, right? The amount of money that we spend, if we rethink it, this is not a liberal thing coming out. This is a very
Oh, I
a
understand.
nuts and bolts kind of, your credits and debits column thinking conservatives. Uh, it just doesn't make fiscal
It doesn't
sense
make
at a
fiscal
certain
sense.
level.
No.
Yeah, there are better ways that we can
Fiscal
ensure the safety.
irresponsibility.
Yeah, fiscal irresponsibility. Yeah, I hear that. Hey, uh, Jeff? Do you? I think it's going to be best if you just have a couple questions. You have a couple that you're ready to go and just put it up. Questions we didn't get to. Yeah, exactly. There
Questions
we
we
go.
did not get to.
As how do inmates view different crimes that people commit? Oh, all right.
Well, there is a hierarchy, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, inmates or people in prison are human beings. They came from a societal structure that had a hierarchy of do's and don'ts. It's like,
Mhm.
remember, even in Dante's Inferno, there were 9 different levels of hell. I mean, if
Mhm.
hell was hell, then we'd be all in one place.
Yeah.
But there were 9 different levels that depended upon the extent of your depravity, of your sins, of your crimes. Well, inmates view them the same exact way. There are
Yeah.
certain people that commit certain crimes that they're held to a different standard. Uh, Sexual crimes, rape.
So inside a
Oh,
prison people hold those to a different
oh, of
standard.
course, of course.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you
And I
get
and I don't mean the staff because that holds true, but I mean the prisoners themselves. There are certain people who are just considered low life.
so if you get put in prison for sexual crimes,
Yeah,
especially crimes against
or
children or
especially crimes against children, old people,
old
but
people,
but just rape itself.
yeah. Okay.
No one is in prison is the friend of a rapist.
Got you.
He's
Yeah.
looked down upon. He's quite often treated, or he's raped himself.
Yeah, got you.
He's
Yeah.
victimized inside prison.
So prisoners, they take it upon themselves to police the prisons in ways, or to exact justice on
To
certain
exact,
people,
if you want to call it justice, yes,
or whatever their version. That's
their
what I mean.
version
Their
of it.
version of
Uh huh.
justice. Okay, all right. What?
Because
Who else? Who else is really looked down upon?
uh
Who's held up actually? Who's
a person who may be in jail for murder for defending his honor, defending his family,
uh, yeah, okay.
for a vengeance kind of crime.
Mm-hmm.
People who we don't get that many white collar criminals in state prisons.
They're going, or at
They're
least
usually
maximum security or more. Is
not.
Rockview is it
Oh yeah,
medium security or
no,
maximum?
it's medium and maximum.
Okay, so
Hmm.
they would go to minimum security more likely.
No, they would probably usually if you're white collar criminal, you're not even going into a state
Well,
system.
right,
They're going
right.
into the Fed system.
So if you steal $100 from the corner store
Oh
with
yes,
a gun or a
yes, you're
knife,
going in, or if you grab it, snatch it and run.
but if you steal a couple
a
million
hundred thousand.
dollars from
If
the
you steal a
bank,
million,
yeah, 10
it's
million,
it's
50
quite it's
million.
quite often so different, Sam.
Okay, so those that you do find who are there,
Hmm.
white collar criminals,
Hmm.
are they mostly left alone?
It's according to the individual themselves, not based on their crime. They aren't left alone, but how they respond to the environment.
So I'm thinking of Shawshank Redemption, that kind
Hmm.
of thing.
Andy
Yeah,
Dufresne,
yeah, yeah.
he
Huh.
could use his head,
Yeah,
and he recognized and realized that because remember he was attacked when he first came into prison,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the rapist came after him because he said, "Oh, look at this prime meat," and he's not a killer,
Yeah.
even though his crime was the death of someone, but he was innocent. And it's
But he
so
wasn't violent. They weren't. They didn't have to be
he was
afraid of
not
him.
violent at all.
Got you. Hey, all right, Jeff. I think we. Do you have another question that we didn't get to? Uh, yeah, really interesting. Dawn from Texas says, upon your release from, what thoughts did you have on society, technology, and music? Can I answer this?
Please. I had the same thoughts I had had for the previous 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
See, when I was released from prison, it wasn't as if just one day something happened and says, we're going to open the doors and you're out of here. Oh, and my prison mindset just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
had
you
been,
listen. You keep talking because I'm looking for the video from Walmart.
okay,
All right.
I
Let me.
had been thinking and quote unquote preparing myself for my release for a long, long time. So my thoughts on society, I knew that when I went back into society, there was going to be a way that I had to operate. I had to think. I had to respond. And it had to be different from the ways that I had prior to going to prison. I couldn't just simply be a reactionary. I couldn't be a physical being who responded physically to every situation.
Mm-hmm.
And having read so much, I mean, philosophy, civics, social structure, uh, I learned that there are ways that we can, regardless of our situation, be elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be that kind of person when I came out. So I was still surprised by things because, again, the majority of things that I had not experienced, but I had read about or had seen in on television, or had seen in the movies, uh, that gave me a sense of familiarity with them, but actually touching them or seeing them or experiencing them, that was incredible. It
Mm-hmm.
was incredible in a good kind of way.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, I found this video. Where should I send it that you can easily put it up? I can send. Should I send it to your email?
Now you're going to send a video of me looking like
At Walmart.
someone from another world.
Yeah. Slack. All right. Let me see if I can get it on Slack. So I will say, you tell this story, which is a fascinating story about, like wanting, seeing things like McDonald's hamburger or
Yes, yes.
yeah, and things, all sorts of stuff like that.
I mean,
Mm.
riding in a car. I had not been in a car for at least almost 30 years. And the car I had been in prior to that, I had been handcuffed and shackled and almost blindfolded to get from one prison to another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm riding in a luxurious car, hands free, legs free, just looking around, just curious as to even now today. And I do a lot of traveling, and I travel sometimes for hours and hours, and I have yet to find myself bored on a trip. We went from here in State College to Indianapolis, Indiana for a speaking engagement that I had. Took 8 hours. It was one of the most luxurious, some of the most luxurious 8 hours that I've ever experienced. Just sitting back, laying back, and just looking at the
Yeah.
countryside, looking at the scenes change, the foliage, the people, the cities. Uh,
Yeah. That's fascinating. You say this sometimes to my students. that they just don't realize.
They don't see what's around them.
Till you have it taken away, and then you
They
realize.
do not see, and I've been home 3 years, Sam, and I still see what the majority of people out here don't see.
So when we went on this day, that's that first day, we went to Walmart, and then we went to the cell phone store, right? And you got an iPhone, right?
Yes, I did. I got an iPhone, a baby iPhone, but it was an iPhone.
And you'd never used a phone. I mean, obviously, you never used a
No,
phone.
of course I used
I
the
mean, I
phone.
know
I
this,
used
but
the
I'm
phone to
just,
call you and Laurie. Of
yeah,
course I did. But it was the phone with the ear and the mouthpiece,
yeah,
which was separate from the cradle that it
yeah,
sat in,
yeah,
and it had a push button. The newest thing about the phone was that it was push button as opposed to the rotary dial that it was when I left.
yeah,
So it's push buttons.
yeah,
But it was that handheld apparatus that's
yeah,
still symptomatic of 40, 50 years ago. But to have a cell phone in my hand,
yeah.
oh, Sam,
Dude, I
that was.
remember. So the guy showed you how to turn it on,
So we had to turn it on, how to turn it off,
what your number was,
what my number was. I had to write this down or remember it, which was easy to remember
and
because
you went. Now at this point in time, you were how old? 75,
I
right?
was 75.
Yeah. And so you you went back to the halfway house.
Went
There were a
back to the
bunch of
halfway
guys
house.
there.
Yes,
Some of them had cell phones
yes,
who
yes.
knew how to use them
Sure,
well,
of course.
and you were learning.
We
And
were
I
learning,
remember
yeah.
each time we'd see you or talk to you or whatever, you'd be suddenly you're calling us on FaceTime. Like,
Indeed,
wait,
yeah.
how's he
That's
doing
right.
that? And you just learn. And now
Learning,
your
learning,
phone is
learning,
like
which is life, a process of learning.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember reading something so long ago that hit me and stayed with me. It says, learning extends and should extend from the cradle to the grave.
yeah, yeah,
Person should never reach a point where they say, okay, I know everything that I need to know.
yeah, yeah.
Because that's the position that I took when I was 17 years old.
That you knew everything you
That
needed
I
to know.
look, I'm functioning. I'm not living home.
Yeah,
I'm home, but I'm not home. I'm in the street. I'm making some money. I have girlfriends. I'm moving about. I'm respected in my community, and they're here talking about. I had just come home from a juvenile institution. I had been in a few juvenile institutions up until that point, and everyone I went into, I always went to school when I was there because they saw immediately that I was intelligent, and they said, "Okay, either you will be working on the grounds or working
yeah,
in vocation, or you going to school." I was always Irvin, well, you're going to school. You're going to school. I always had a level of intelligence that was easy to see through the test,
yeah,
so I went to school while I was there, and I would always ask, look, when I get out of here, because these were juvenile sentences of 6 months, a year at the most, when I get out of here, will this count when I go back to school? They said, of course, because you're going to school now. So I went to school with the intention of continuing on
hmm
in terms of my grade and my education. And invariably, 3 times this happened. When I got out, they says, "Oh, Mr. Moore, you haven't been here for 6 months. You haven't been here for a year." I said, "No, but I was going to school when I was inside." He says, "Well, that doesn't count.
right,
So
right,
we're going to drop you. You're going to keep you in the same level you're in." This happened when I was in the 8th grade. I had to repeat the 8th grade. It happened in the 9th grade. I had to repeat the 9th grade. We had 8th grade was 8A and 8B. I had to repeat both of them. That's 1 year. 9th grade was 9A, 9B. I had to repeat both of them. I did the last sentence, my last juvenile sentence when I was 16, turning 17. Came home. My mother took my brother, my younger brother's 2 years younger than I, took us back to school. And I went to school, and this is junior high school, with the intent that, okay, I finished. I was going a year. I did the entire year, went to school every day, have all my tests, my records. I should be now graduating from this school, going to the high school. And they told me no.
yeah,
You
They
haven't
just
been here.
basically, they just basically, and that's just so demoralizing.
But even more than that, Sam, and this was the kicker for me.
Yeah,
They says, no, you have to continue the ninth grade. And guess who was also going into the ninth grade
your
at that time?
brother.
My brother, my little brother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
we would now be in the same grade, same classes. I
yeah.
said,
So this
no.
is the kind of stuff that we're talking
I
about.
said, no.
Yeah, here's the other thing. You you have talked about, so this, I want to go to the folks, the punishment piece,
Sure.
right?
Hmm.
Here you are, this kid, you're getting into trouble, but you come from a good family. I mean, it's a solid family.
Indeed.
But yeah, you're getting into trouble, and you say, okay, hang on, we got to take this kid and we got to do something, right? Or we don't have to do anything. We just let you go, but we're gonna be paying for it. We paid for your rent, your living expenses for 52 years.
Exactly right.
And you could have been out, it was like, if things would have
Ah,
gone differently for you, not just for other folks, but for you and other folks, we wouldn't have to do that.
no.
Okay. You also have talked about how that you encountered the greatest evil you ever encountered was not at the maximum security prison at Rockview, but was at the juvenile detention
Oh boy,
facilities.
oh boy. Boy, oh boy.
So here's the thing, y'all, like, we think, all right, we need to, Irvin, don't take too long, but just say a few things about this evil, because this is the kind of stuff that we don't see, that people don't see. Most people don't.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then we wonder what's wrong with these kids. Why do they
Hmm.
keep doing bad
Sure,
things? You know.
sure. They're children, first and foremost. They're like clay. They're like a blank easel. They're malleable,
Hmm.
impressionable, can go either way.
Hmm.
And the evil that I speak of, Sam, is not necessarily from the kids themselves, but from those who supervised and governed and ran those places that we call juvenile institutions, because those were grown folk and they were evil. They were bad.
Hmm.
What they did to the children, what they did to us, I think about it now, and there had to be some things either psychologically or emotionally wrong with these folk,
Hmm.
sadists,
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
perverted people, the sexual improprieties that went on in those places with these children, with these kids,
The physical punishment.
the physical punishment,
Yeah.
the beatings,
Yeah.
the pitting one group or one individual against another just for their pleasure, their fun.
Yeah. And we still read about all of these things happening.
I
Maybe
mean,
not to the same degree, because things have changed,
oh
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
still.
But still, yeah,
Yeah.
because there are places like that. And who monitors those places? Who makes certain that those who are hired in those kinds of positions meet certain standards?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be easily hidden.
So for you, Jeff,
Hmm.
and we're going to go to this video in a second. So
Sure.
for you, you, it's like, this is the stuff that we don't see.
Hmm.
It's like, that just ensures that you're just going to be meaner and
Oh, of course,
badder,
of course.
and you're going to hate more, and you're going to just you want to see me as a monster?
Oh
Okay, I'll
yeah.
be a monster. I mean, this is how it
And you
is.
learn what to do and what not to do, and how to not be victimized at
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
age.
yeah,
You
yeah,
learn that in order not to be the recipient of pain and anguish,
yeah,
I have to mete out pain and anguish.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I have
yeah.
to let people, quite often it's the supervisors, the people that run those places, I have to let them see that I am the kind of guy that the other inmates will not mess with, the other kids will not mess
Yeah,
with.
so you learn that. Just like
And you're elevated.
other people learn to they studying hard from
Yes,
following directions, from
yeah,
going to church, from whatever
yes.
it is. Hey, let's watch. So the video we're gonna watch is Irvin was out of prison for about 22 hours. And Lori and I picked him up down in Johnstown, PA, at what would be like would be considered a halfway house,
It
transitional
was a
house. Yeah.
transitional house.
And he didn't have anything. And we said, hey, we got to go. you got to get you some stuff, man. You don't have shoes, you don't have anything. So we'll go to Walmart. We didn't intend to go to a super center, but it was the only one.
That's the only one there. And I didn't even know what a super center was.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so let's watch this video. This is great. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. I don't know if it has sound, Jeff.
Look at this.
I was just about to say I can't get audio on it because it's not on like a Chrome window, but you can at least see the video.
Okay.
Empty cart.
Oh.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Samuel, all you said was that you got him a
Some
pink
reason.
toothbrush.
Yeah, a pink toothbrush. I remember that. Look at that list.
Man, it's a big list.
Look that the cart is full.
Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
You said, Sam said this was your first experience at Walmart. You guys just talking about
I
it.
still got this shoot.
You're now a true American. What does Dr. Mulvey say? She thinks
that's
she couldn't
awesome.
say it any better.
Yeah. Man, that was what a trip. That was Fred.
So glad you know Irvin, Fred.
Fred's the dog that got commuted with Irvin.
Oh yeah.
There is his phone, man. That was day
Oh
one too.
boy, that was
That's
day
the
one.
first
Yeah,
one. The first time
yeah.
you used your phone.
Oh
right
well,
there.
that was you talking about an unexperienced Sam.
Yeah,
Unforgettable.
man. Yeah. Hey, Axel, there's a gentleman, Axel from Germany, that really wants to meet you.
Okay.
And so for sure, Axel, we can.
Axel, are you going to fly me over there, Axel? Oh.
He wants to come over here. We'll, yeah, Axel, definitely for sure. We will. I'll put you in contact with Irvin.
Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be really fun to talk. For me, Irvin, I think that the thing that I was telling Lori this morning, I have people in my life who I just really like to laugh with, and you're one of them.
Okay,
here you get out of prison, and we're just gonna take you to Walmart and have fun.
And we did at my expense, but I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, it's just so much. I think about my Bassem, and he and I laugh so much. It's so
and
much fun.
the thing about it, Sam, is that one of the responsibilities that I have, and I understand this, I know, and I accept it joyously, is to tell the folk that have not been able to get over the wall, that are still in prison, they're still incarcerated. Some of them will die there, but to share these experiences with them.
You do that. You and Lori both, like with Will and stuff. Oh my God.
Oh yes, every day.
So when you're talking, now when you're in conversation with people who are still inside, and you tell them, I hear you. I've heard you tell people about the things you're doing. I'm gonna have a piece of hot apple pie.
Oh yes.
And they want you. They're like, okay, describe it to me. Like,
of course, they want to know because I was there. I was in that same position.
Yeah.
And I would talk to my mother, my father, my brothers, friends of ours, and ask them what they were doing, where they were going, when are they going, what are you going to do when you get there?
Yeah.
Are you there? What do you have? What does it look like?
When you were you stayed at that hotel in Atlanta, and you were like on the 30th floor or something.
I was on the penthouse floor.
The penthouse floor. And I remember Will saying that he had a conversation with you, and he was asking you, what do you see? What's it look like to look out that window?
Exactly. And I was able to describe everything.
Yeah.
Looking at the panorama sweeping from panning from one end to the other
Yeah.
and describing
Yeah.
the buildings, the lights, the avenues, the streets, and
Yeah.
the movement of the cars and
Yo, man, this is just like, this is the thing. It's almost if everybody, how many people's lives, how many of us would just live very differently if we just went into sort of, I don't know, I just had the experience, some kind of experience like you did. So you come back to life, right?
indeed,
And you
indeed,
just,
indeed. But I don't. The thing about it is, a lot of people. No, I won't say a lot, but some people, their response to trauma
mm,
is to repress it, suppress
mhm,
it, push it so deep down within them
yeah,
that they never recall it.
yeah.
And because of that, they tend to make the same kinds of mistakes that they made previously
Yeah, yeah,
regarding
yeah,
the
yeah. Because they can't get past it.
because they haven't
Yeah,
learned from that experience.
yeah,
They've
yeah,
run from it, hidden from it, but they haven't learned from it.
yeah.
Now, I remember the majority of every deprivation that I've experienced on the inside, every want, every anger, hurt, regret, remorse, fear, humiliation. I remember those from the inside. Or deprivation.
Mm,
I remember wanting so bad just to get up out of my bed, walk to the door, and walk out and have fresh air, just light and sunlight, just drenching across my body.
mm,
It's something that I do every day now.
man.
Every day. The first thing I do when I walk up and open the door, I just hold both my hands up. I says, "Oh, thank you.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, great spirit. Thank
Yeah,
you, Lord.
yeah,
Thank you, universe."
yeah, yeah, yeah. Axel just wrote, it's like an alien landing in the U.S. and on Earth on a new planet. Yeah,
Oh, indeed.
yeah,
There was a there
yeah,
was a song written by Stevie Wonder in the early '70s called "Living for the City,"
yeah, yeah. I remember that
and
house.
there's a young country boy who had
Yeah,
never been up north,
yeah,
never been to New York, and he was coming to New York on a bus, and he was describing as the music was playing in the background. He's describing New York. I'm here. Here it is. Oh, look at this. Look at the skyscrapers, the lights, the people
yeah,
that are walking. You say, "Oh my Lord." And he steps off the bus, and someone says, "Hey, hey, kid, come in." He said, "Oh, look, I can't explain. Yes, come here, boy. Here, take this across the street. Hurry up, take this." And he said, "Well, what is that, sir?" He said, "Go ahead, hurry up, get out of here." And then sirens are coming and police, "Wait a minute, hold, stop right there.
yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
no, wait a minute, sir. I don't know what this is. Shut up, nigga. Blah, blah, blah.
yeah, yeah,
And next thing you know, you hear the door of a prison cell clang.
yeah,
And that's where
yeah.
he's at playing. It's called Living for the City.
Yeah, that's a great
But
song.
he stepped off there and he was amazed at the panorama of everything that was around him.
Mm,
And that's the same way I am again. And I do not exaggerate this. That's the same way I am every day, Sam. The same way I am every day.
yeah, yeah,
And when I talk to people, I talk to them about the joys and the blessings and the beauty and the immensity that's everywhere around us. I mean, I'm sitting here right now talking to Sam, and I'm looking out the window. And look, Sam, what is that sitting right there on that? Just
That's a
a,
squirrel
that's a
stealing that
squirrel
seed from the birds.
stealing seeds. He's not
That
sitting.
thief.
And I
Yeah,
mean, amongst all the greenery, the plants that
yeah.
are growing, and trees in the background, you know, for 27 years at Greater Ford, we could not see a green growing thing other than standing on what was considered one of the loading platforms around the back of the building, where maybe 5 or 6 of us who had been there so long that the guards knew who we were, they understood we had relationships, and they let us walk back there. We just go back there for an hour or two and stand there and just talk. Because why did we go there? Because if you look at the farthest point of the 50-foot wall, you could see a green twig during
From
the
a tree.
springtime. We
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. We didn't know
Yeah.
if it was a tree. Of course, once I started working outside, I discovered this was a tall tree that was sitting outside the wall.
Yeah.
It was starting, the leaves during the spring were
Yeah.
starting to bud. And we would just stand and watch that, watch it bud and watch it get greener and flower. And we did this every year because there was not a blade of grass, a tuft of bush. There was not any green thing anywhere inside that wall.
Man.
And it kept it
Yeah.
that way for, oh, maybe until the 90s sometime when they
Wow.
started. We demanded, just come in, look, bring some grass, plant some grass,
Yeah.
plant the
Yeah.
sides, or let us put some bushes. Can we grow flowers? And
Yeah, I remember going to Rockview in the springtime for the Lifers banquet, and the crabapple trees were
oh yeah,
blooming, and
yeah.
it was these beautiful pink buds and like
Oh,
flowers. Like, oh man,
well, we couldn't see it.
yeah.
I couldn't see it. We couldn't
You
see it
know,
from inside.
I remember Will saying one time he was talking to Lori, and he said, "Man, today I went outside and a leaf had blown in. It was really windy, and a leaf had blown in."
Uh,
Into he's at Phoenix, and he said that, and I looked down and there was a leaf,
wow.
and I picked it up. I'm like, oh my god, yeah,
The thing that's
man,
so incredible about that, something as quote unquote innocuous as a leaf blowing in, you're picking it up, could have led to him being placed in the hole
yeah,
for
right,
a violation of rules and policies.
yeah, yeah, that's bizarre.
If someone had stopped him and searched him and said, well, "What is this?" "Oh no, just a leaf." "What are you doing with a leaf?"
Yeah, that's the thing, man. That's the other side. That's the other side.
That's the
Yeah.
other side.
Where that's the militancy and just utter meanness.
And you
Hey,
have to try to balance that as a part of your everyday existence.
yeah. Hey, Jeff, do you have a photo? Can you put a photo up of Rockview? I think you had a couple, or you were looking at them, and then let's respond to a couple more questions from this stream. Yeah. Yeah, oh man, there's that one. Yeah, look at that. There, that one right there. That's good. Can you blow that one up? Man, look at that.
Look at that. Look at that. That's what used to be called East Wing and West Wing. Now it's A block and D block right there in the front.
Yeah, there you go. You really see that.
I was on both of those wings.
And the bottom right over there is the visitor center.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
Man, that's intense. That's a big, daunting building.
Isn't that something?
We've stopped by there. Remember, shortly after you got out, we stopped and took a photo. Yeah, Irvin's a legend over there.
I'm a legend everywhere. Look, there's not that many people that have put as much time in one particular place as I have.
Yeah.
Now, usually a guy that puts in that much time is messing up around the system, so he's in the hole, or he's been transferred from one institution to another. He'll be there 5 years, be in another one 7 years, be in another one 10 years, then transferred again to another one 3 years, that kind of thing. And I know some guys like that who, in the early days when we initially came through, they took another path and did not deviate from that. I took the same path, but at some point I says, wait a minute. This is a self-destructive kind of path. I need to rethink this.
Yeah. Hey, I like that comment by Wallflower. Following a leaf dance down my road, I ended up 6 blocks away in my PJs. Hey, Jeff, do you have are there any other questions? Or what other questions do you have? So what could or would a convicted individual say or do to constitute making amends or taking responsibility for one's crimes? Yeah, how do you think about that? Like, that's very complex, right?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I came to the realization that society didn't do this to me per se. I did something.
That's the first step. It's like
First
AA,
step, of
right?
course, of
Yeah.
course. You have to admit my responsibility, my role in what happened, and whether or not I truly cared about that or not. And I came.
Okay.
That's when I first came to realize that I was not a quote unquote bad and evil person.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather smile and laugh than argue and sneer, and I would much rather have fun than not.
Yeah.
I would much rather bring pleasure and joy into a person's life as opposed to pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And once I recognized and realized this about myself, I says, okay, so why then is there such pain and destruction and self-destruction and hurt and anguish in the wake of me
Mm-hmm.
being wherever I've been? I said, well, do I have control of that? And I realized that I do. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have to react the way that I've been reacting. I don't have to respond the way that I've been responding. Because I said, when I stuttered, and the way that people responded to my stuttering was to laugh and make fun of me, and my response to that was to fight. I says, I don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first step. Now, I believe in what can you say? I believe that there's a designer to all that is. You can
Mm-hmm.
call it what you want to call it. Some people call it God.
Mm-hmm.
Jehovah has names, and Jesus, and uh,
Allah.
Allah, and some people says the
Yeah.
Great Spirit,
Krishna. Yeah.
Krishna.
Uh-huh.
But I believe that there's something that's we're aspiring to become. There's something greater than who we are. And there are universal principles and laws that I believe in.
Yeah.
One is right and wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another is good and evil.
So one thing I'm hearing you say when I listen to you talk about this stuff, what's up, Cora? This is the thing that so many people they opine
Mm-hmm.
about crimes and prisons and punishment and justice and all these things. They opine about it, but they haven't had as much experience with it. They haven't had a great deal of experience with it up close, right? You read about things in the newspaper. Some of the comments here are talking about, just some things that they read about and real kind of evil that some people do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I get it, but there's a lot of in between. You have the bell curve, right?
The
On one
majority
hand,
of
you have
yes, of
your
course,
innocent
of course,
people.
of course.
On
You have
other
the
hand, you have
extremes.
your just evil people, and then everywhere in between is the vast majority.
That's what the vast majority of people are.
What about, hey, Wallflower had this cool comment about acknowledging and owning our roles in our lives as a quick way to slay the ego and build confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that is
The first step.
that's so important.
I look at that as being a very, very important first step.
Mm-hmm. And so that's no different from with people who are seeking atonement for crimes or the same as people seeking atonement for sins
Or people seeking enlightenment.
or
I don't see any
Yeah.
difference.
You got to slay the ego.
You have to say you have to.
Which is what happened to you
when
the old heads said, "Hey, read this book called Man's Search for Meaning."
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
And you had to just beat yourself down. They had to just keep holding you to this, and you had to slay your ego.
Indeed.
Say, like, all right.
Indeed, I had to say, because remember, I dropped out of school and told my mother once the school counselor says, well, Mrs. Moore, your son Irvin is going to have to redo this grade.
Which is 8th grade.
Which is 9th grade.
9th grade, okay, yeah.
And I says, wait a minute, I'm going to be in the same grade as my brother Bill. I'm not going to the 10th grade. I'm not going to high school where I should be going. I'm already a year behind. You're going to do this to me again?
Yeah.
So he didn't tell my mother, well, We could try to do this, we could try to do that. When I says, Mom, I'm not going,
Yeah.
sign me out.
Yeah. So it wasn't just, so this is a really important thing. So like, I remember when you were in class, this most recent time, I think you said, yeah, I just signed myself out of school. I just said I wasn't ever going back.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't hear is all the back end story of you going to juvenile detention for
Mhm.
things that you did, right? That you
Indeed.
admit were wrong. But nonetheless, you were there and you're going to school and you're trying to continue moving forward.
Yes.
And they just kept putting walls up everywhere you
Yeah.
went, to meaning like, listen, kid, we're not going to allow you to improve yourself, to see yourself differently. We see you as a bad kid and we're just going to keep you there.
Well, actually, I was 16 going on 17. And I told my mother, no, I'm not going. I'm signing myself out. And the counselor says, pardon me, said, well, Mr. Moore, he can't sign himself out. He's too young.
Mm-hmm.
But you can sign him out.
Mm-hmm.
That was his suggestion. You can sign him out.
Yeah, right. Not to say, to
See,
pull you aside and say, hey, listen,
don't do
come
this.
on. Yeah,
Don't do, stay in school.
yeah,
It's okay.
man.
You're going to get out. And none of that. It was, Mr. Moore, you can sign him out. No
Yeah,
problem. Just
yeah,
take this piece of sign right here, and
yeah,
he'll be out of school. And I looked at my mother and says, do that, Mom. Do that.
yeah,
And she
man.
kept saying, no, Irvin, please don't. You know, I said, I'm not going. I'm not
Yeah.
doing. You said you can sign me out, so that's what you need to do.
Yeah, man.
And one of the worst mistakes I have made in my life.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Jeff, do we have another question? What do you believe the punishment should be for taking someone's life intentionally? This is a thing that people ask. Like, you
Of
think
course,
about
of course, of course.
eye for an eye.
Of course.
The problem is taking someone's life is complex,
Because circumstances have to be considered.
and circumstances are different in
They're
every
different.
case.
They're so different. What do we say to the police officer that shoots and kills someone?
Yeah.
What do we say to the soldier in the military armed forces who
Yeah.
shoots and kills someone?
Mhm.
What do we say to the slumlord landowner whose actions result in
In the
children starving and dying?
death
And
of a child, like freezing? Yeah. Or in your case, right? It's an accident. It wasn't
it
intentional.
was not intentional, but even though he mentioned intentional or unintentional there, of course, not saying that a life is not precious, but we have to consider the circumstances. Not all
Yeah.
circumstances are the same.
Yeah. 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 That's the thing, man.
Well, that's the problem with mandatory sentencing.
Yeah.
And one reason that judges were even created in the uh, early histories of civilizations of man is because we wanted people in the positions to make decisions that were fair and just.
Yeah.
And we need
Yeah.
certain kind of people to do that. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we wanted them to be fair and just and in the best interest of not just the victim, but the person who was involved and the community itself,
Yeah.
which is a part of what restorative justice tends to look toward.
You're restoring
Was restoring
faith and
sure, of course.
solidarity.
Of course. And we're recognizing that
cohesiveness.
this person, that both all the people involved in this, whoever they may be, were members of the same community, usually.
So you are hang on, I have to check something. You
Mhm.
have to, so you're restoring confidence in the community itself.
Mhm.
You're restoring confidence in the leaders. You're restoring
Indeed.
confidence in the people whose role it is to protect
Yes.
and to serve and to teach.
Well, that's one
Yeah.
reason why I mentioned judges, because judges were deemed able to do this based on their experience, age,
Yeah.
expertise, what have you. But now today we have a system that calls for mandatory sentences, which means regardless to what the circumstances are, if you're
Mhm.
found guilty of this, this is what you get.
Mhm. Mhm.
The
Yeah.
judge only rubber stamps once a conviction is made.
Yeah.
The judge only rubber stamps the sentence. He
Yeah.
has no judicial uh, prerogative
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
which at one point existed.
And and we're moving back toward that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because we're seeing where mandatory
Oh yeah,
sentences
yeah,
get
sure,
us.
sure.
Uh,
But it's taken 50 years, Sam.
yeah, it's really,
It's
oh
taken 50 years.
man.
When I came through the system, things started to change at that point because it was the 1960s and things were happening economically, politically, culturally, that brought about changes in all the systems that impact us. And one of the changes that it brought was changing the criminal justice system, the way that we operate. And
Hey, here's
Mhm.
can you, Jeff, can you put Axel's most recent question up uh, about the money was spent? Um, I don't have yeah.
Axel is our friend from Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, did you think about the money was spent to hold so long in prison? Like, what do you think about that and the part that he can do for the community after transforming? Yeah. So, we spend all this money.
Hmm.
Again, we're not neither you nor I. When you say abolish prisons, you're talking about abolish prisons as they are. You're
Hmm. Yeah.
not abolishing.
No, we're not raising them to the ground and not having places where people can be placed
Yeah.
so that the community can feel safe or be safe.
Yeah. It's just that we just don't prisons are boring, right? Prisons are really without books. Man, when you first went
Oh
in, you don't have
boy.
books, you don't have television, you
Boy,
don't have
oh
radio.
boy,
It's just
boy, oh boy,
boredom.
boy, oh
Well,
boy.
you can't grow with boredom. Like
Well,
nobody's gonna
remember,
grow.
those were the places that were initially instituted when places of penance were
Yeah.
thought about in fashion and form. And what was the result? Because they stayed that way for decades and decades. And what was the inevitable result of that? Insanity.
Yeah.
Is what we call solitary confinement today,
Yeah.
isolation.
So now okay. Then we so many people who knew you, and you're not alone. I mean, there are so many people like you, who people inside the prison, the correction officers, they want to see them help them to get out
Oh
because
yeah.
they say
Oh
you
yes.
don't belong here,
Exactly.
and you could do so much more
We could do so much better for us as a
positive work.
society
Yeah,
out there where you're at.
which is what you're doing.
Well,
Right?
which is what they began to say about me decades ago.
Yeah,
Because that was the path that I chose.
Yeah.
And I understood that. I recognized that.
I remember having lunch at one of the banquets with the superintendent,
Mm.
and he said, I think Lori was over having a conversation with you, and the superintendent said, and he was a powerful superintendent back then. He said, "Man, Irvin Moore, we got to get him out of here. Got to get him out of here." And the guards, they all just like, Irvin Moore, you got to get this guy out of here,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a few of the COs as students, and man, it's just. But now you're doing awesome work.
Indeed, I think I am.
Yeah,
I
well,
think
you
I
are.
am.
Well, you're doing awesome work right now.
I think I am.
You're showing people, that. I mean, you're giving a window into what is possible. Now you're unique in the sense that you spend so much time and you're
Indeed.
such a profound.
That's my only uniqueness. That's only my
This is the thing, because we have met a lot of really interesting people.
Oh yeah.
Behind those bars.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and some really smart people, very
yes.
thoughtful people.
Yes.
They don't necessarily have the wisdom that you have because they don't have the years and they don't have.
And that's another thing. I'm quite often, even now, Sam, I'm usually the oldest person in the room.
Yeah.
I'm usually wherever I go to speak, unless it's at a place like Foxtel Village, one of the nursing homes, retirement homes. I'm usually always the oldest person in the room, and that has to count for something.
It counts for a lot.
It has to count for something.
Well, you used it, man. You used it, and you're really doing the work. And like, holy smokes, man.
And the thing about that, Sam, is that it's no surprise.
Yeah.
I knew long before I was released what my path would be once I was released. I knew this. I
Yeah, you
knew
knew.
the kind of life
Yeah.
I would lead. I
Yeah.
didn't know the individual circumstances, of course. I didn't know how big.
And you were very smart to stay here in State College.
I think so.
Yeah, it's a highly educated community.
Yes, yes,
It's a
yes,
community that really wants. So many people want to hear from you.
yes. Hmm.
Penn State, you're working at Penn State.
Hmm.
It's just like so you have access to all these people and people who really need to hear from you.
Sure.
Yeah, want
Sure.
to and need to. Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, is there another question? Let's see if we have one. The perfect world. Man, there's so many things here. If someone's got a question, really put it up on the stream, and Jeff, I'll see if you have any from the past. But
How many students, how many participants do we have in this?
right
stream?
now we have 24 people watching, and then what's going to
Okay.
happen is it's going to go out and people will watch. As soon as we're done, people will start watching.
Okay.
How did you avoid violence, fights, riots, and other physical altercations in prisons?
I didn't.
Yeah.
How did I avoid that? I did not.
Yeah.
There was violence and I was involved in violence. There were fights, I was involved in fights.
But in your younger years.
Well, in my early years.
Yeah.
Let's say,
Yeah.
in my early years.
Yeah.
When I hadn't learned yet how to avoid them.
Mm.
I hadn't reached a position yet where I was respected enough or people knew enough about me to listen to what I had to say.
Mm.
And quite often I went with the flow. And quite often in situations like that, you feel as if you have to go with the flow. So I can't avoid this rush, the crowd, until you learn better, until you learn, no, you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Until you learn that, wait a minute, I can't control who I am and how I respond to this. Even if it means turning around and walking back into the cell and closing the door. Boom. Quite often, that's enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because in the early days, I went to the hole.
A lot.
I went to the hole a lot.
And that's always for misconduct.
It was usually always, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the misconduct was because you can violate a rule or a principle or policy inside by just standing there.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Right,
doing nothing.
By doing nothing. You can violate. What are you doing here? Well, did you know you're not supposed to be? You're supposed to be. Well, I don't know. Come on.
And if the COs want to give you a hard time,
Sure,
they're just
sure, sure. If there are three of us walking and talking, and at that point in the early years, it wasn't supposed to be more than two people.
Yeah. Yeah, to get side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are so many ways that you can violate policy, and they can lock you up for it. Go in your cell at any time and pick up something. Pick up a sugar pack that you bought from breakfast that morning.
Yeah.
You didn't put it in your cereal. You put it in your pocket to take it back. They could put it in your coffee.
Yeah.
They come in and search your cell. There's a sugar pack laying there. You're going to the hole.
Yeah, man.
And you might be in a hole a week. According to who was the adjudicator, you might be in a month.
Man. God.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Axel had a question. How long did you need to really transform yourself? That you could say, like, I could say it started here and it ended
Okay. I got my first associate's degree 7 years after I was in prison.
Okay.
They could have let me go home then.
That's when you were like, okay, I'm done with this life. I get it.
Yeah, no, that's not I'm done with this life. There is another way.
There's another way. Okay. Yeah. Huh.
There's another way. Oh, I didn't know that this way existed or these ways existed.
Got you.
Oh, this is oh, good Lord.
Are you 100% confident that you could have gone home then?
Yes.
Yeah. So you spent 45 years in atonement.
and I'm living the rest of my life, and we want to
Yeah.
put it that way, in atonement,
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
which I have no problem doing.
Yeah. Got you.
I do this joyfully.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. And you were doing good work in there. I mean, you were working with so many people.
Oh,
You
indeed,
you're a
indeed.
guy that would bring all the youngsters who needed
Oh yeah,
guidance. They'd bring them
oh
to
yeah,
you,
oh
and
yeah, oh yeah, oh
sometimes
yeah.
put them in, make them your cellie.
Oh, indeed,
Yeah,
indeed,
a
indeed.
cellie is a cellmate.
The cellmate, put him in the cell with me. Says, okay, I'm going to make sure. Who's your mother? Who's your father? Are they still alive? Are you in communication with them? How far did you go in school?
Yeah,
Can you read? Well, let's
yeah.
talk about this. Do you know about this? Do you know about that? I could
And
make an assessment as to the level of intelligence and say, okay, this is what you. If you're going to stay in this cell, this is what you need to do.
yeah, 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 yeah,
We're going to
yeah,
do a little reading every day. We're going to do some writing, do some mathematics, trigonometry, algebra, whatever. We're going to do this a little bit every day.
yeah. I got you. And
And
your goal is an old head at that point, and you were an old head when you were middle aged.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
And your goal was to ensure that these young guys that you were seeing come in here don't return.
Exactly. That they leave here better than they were when they came here. That they
Mhm.
leave here equipped with the skills that would make them a success once they went home.
Yeah.
That they left here and were not predators in my community, where my family, my friends, my loved ones were
Yeah,
at.
yeah. So so this is where you were doing your work there, as so many people do, right?
Indeed.
This was your social work, your spiritual work. Yeah, man, your community work was in those 45 years when you didn't need to be there, but the universe said, hey, you need to be here because we got work for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh.
Sure.
Yeah. So
What?
I'm seeing that Wallflower was saying that you were there, you were doing your making those extra years
Well,
way
again,
before.
because I look back on the the time that I spent in prison, 52 years of my life. Sam, I mean this with all my heart. I don't look upon that with regret. I don't look
Mhm.
upon that with anger,
Mhm. Mhm.
hostility,
Mhm.
bitterness, or I don't look upon that as being a waste. I don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it allowed me to do and become who and what I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
people that I know, that friends and loved ones and family and individuals that grew up with me, who are not
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
who are not
Yeah.
here. And others that I'm in communication with who never went to prison. It's not like everyone in my community goes to
Yeah.
prison. That's
Yeah.
not the case.
Yeah.
You know, it's a certain percentage of people that go to prison, but the majority of people in my community stay there. And a lot of them are in situations today that are deplorable.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't weren't able to do what they needed to do.
Never went to prison, but they were imprisoned in their own
Yeah.
environments
Yeah.
and lifestyles and those kinds of things like that.
And they didn't have that associate's degree experience like you had,
Oh,
where you just go. Yeah. Holy smokes, man. Uh, man. Well, listen, this has been awesome. I'm actually going to be filming a video shortly. Junho is coming over.
oh,
We're going
indeed.
to finish a video for Korea, and I am the one of the global kimchi ambassadors for the
Hmm.
nation of Korea, and we made a video, and I'm going to be.
Look at this, Sam.
Ah. Oh yeah, hey, there you
I want you to
go.
read that real fast. That was one of the young guys.
Last night, Irvin. Wait, hang on. Let me see. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Met Cornell West was speaking, and the guy, and who's the other guy?
He was one of the undergraduate students at the
Undergraduate
university.
student.
But the
Yeah.
person that wrote that was a friend of mine named Smokey Wilson.
Michael Smokey Wilson. He
His,
wrote Irvin Moore, the professor. That's what he called you, the professor?
Everyone called me that.
Yeah.
I told you that.
Awesome. He earned the reputation of one of the smartest people in SCI Graterford, State Correctional Institution, Graterford, which is now Phoenix. He would assist anyone in their education endeavors. Our brother started various school programs and actually taught the residents when there was no school programs in the DOC, Department of Corrections. Now Irvin, he teaches at Penn State University. You teach in the world. Yeah.
I teach in the world.
What a turnaround. Everyone at least should be given an opportunity to share their unique talents, skills with others who are really in need. Education is key to a successful life. Michael Smokey Wilson. Yeah.
And Smokey did about maybe 45 years in prison.
Man.
He was a juvenile lifer, so he was released before I was.
Yeah.
He's in Philadelphia now. It's doing wonderfully.
Yeah. That's
Mayor's election committee. He was a prize fighter, like a lot of us were.
Yeah.
But he continued. And one of his students was Bernard Hopkins, the executioner.
Man, I know that. I know that guy. Hey, this is my guy Junho.
Oh, you heard that? You heard that, sweetie? She
Let's
jumped
see
up and says, "Wait a minute! I heard somebody at that door."
Hang on, watch this.
It's
I wanna
okay.
talk to him. Hey Junho. Listen, I'll be right there. I'm just finishing a live stream. All right. Yeah, just hang out. I'll be right there.
Leave
All
Junho
right.
alone.
Look at
Stop
that. That's a ring door. Is this technology amazing? Here I am on a live stream.
Indeed.
The doorbell rings.
Yes.
In Irvin, this is this guy right here. He says, as soon as he saw our ring doorbell, he's like, I gotta get one of those.
Oh, got you. I have to. Gotta get one of that.
This guy, everything technology. Hey, listen, we're gonna head out. We have our last class tomorrow, and Jeff, we're gonna do some streams, some office hours, throughout the college. Or throughout the summer. I mean, pardon me, my brain is going. But I'm headed off to Korea next Thursday.
You hear that? Globe hopping again.
Yeah, man. So we'll do something from Korea. So this will be good, for sure. We got to do something. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks everybody. Thank you, Mr. Moore, Professor Moore, this guy right here, from the Walmart Supercenter to the office. Yeah. So
to the live stream. That's right.
Hey, but Axel, for sure, if you want to get in, if anyone wants to get in touch with Irvin, we will send us an email and
Let's make that happen.
We'll make it happen. We'll send his, or you're on WhatsApp, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's on WhatsApp. You can do a video call with him easily on WhatsApp. We can make it happen, for sure. And Axel, I know that I said I was going to, and I just keep forgetting, but now you got it. So we'll get you Irvin's phone number and you can WhatsApp him. You guys can talk. Anybody. All right, listen, thanks everybody. Jeff, thanks for once again just holding it down in the way that you do and being awesome. And Mr. Moore and Cora, thanks for being here.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Yep. All right, man. Thanks, everyone.